Hey guys, this Algebra 2 lesson is on remainder and factor theorem. So let's go ahead and start by dividing this 3x to the fourth minus 5x cubed. Notice there's no 0x squared, so I'm going to insert a 0x squared. I'm sorry, there's no x squared, so I'm going to insert a 0x squared plus 4x minus 6. You'll see why when we do synthetic division shortly. Okay, divided by this. So this goes on the outside, long division right here. Okay, there's my 0x squared. You need it there. You'll see why in synthetic division in just a little bit, you guys, because it appears sooner or later. All right, so this is what you do. X squared times what gets me 3x to the fourth, and I'm going to write that right here. X squared times 3x squared will get me 3x to the fourth, so that's what goes right there. Then I multiply this 3x squared times x squared times negative 3x times 5. So 3x squared times this times this times this. And that's what's going to go right underneath this guy right here. Okay, and then I'm going to do parentheses and subtract. Okay, be careful. Negative 5 minus a minus 9 is negative 5 plus 9. All right, so I get that. Slide down the next term right here, and then I do it again. X squared times what gets me 4x cubed? X squared times 4x gets me 4x cubed. So then I multiply this 4x times that, times that, times that, and it goes right underneath here. All right, and then I do parentheses and subtract again, okay? And don't forget, we're going to slide down to negative 6. One more time. X squared times what gets me negative 3x squared? X squared times a negative 3 is going to go right here. And then I'm going to multiply negative 3 times this whole trinomial right here. And that's what all this is right here. When I subtract, I get that is my remainder. Okay, so you start at the top. This is how you write it now. It's where you start at the top. It's this plus the remainder over what I was dividing by. So 3x squared plus 4x minus 3 plus this over this. Okay, that's my final answer right there. All right, so you guys try that with this guy right here. It's an easier one. So pause the video right here and then you try it on your own. Okay, and see what you get. Alright, so here we go. So I'm going to put the x minus 2 on the outside. X squared times, x times x squared gets me x cubed, and then I got to multiply x squared times the negative 2x goes right there. Negative 5 minus a minus 2 is negative 5 plus 2, so you get a 7x. Okay, and then x times 7x gets me 7x squared, so 7x times negative 2 is negative 14x. Okay, subtract, and then so one more time, x times 7 gets me 7x, okay, and then when I subtract, I get a remainder of 16. So the answer is start at the top plus the remainder over what I was dividing by, and you get that as your answer right there. Okay, let's do synthetic division. We started doing synthetic division, okay? Now it's the same problem, you guys, except synthetic division, when you're dividing by a binomial, you always take the opposite of this guy right here. So this is my box number is going to be a positive 2. Everything else is the same. Next to the box number is going to be 1, 5, negative 7, and 2. Okay, so here we go. So slide the 1 down. Okay, the 1 comes straight down. Then I go 1 times the box number 2. So that's what goes underneath here. 1 times 2 is 2. Add 5 and 2 gets me 7. 7 times the box number goes underneath that negative 7, so it's 14. And then add negative 7 plus 14 is 7. And then 7 again times the box number is 14. There's my remainder. Okay, now since this was x cubed, this is always 1 degree less. So this would be 1x squared plus 7x plus 7 plus my remainder 16 over what I was dividing by, x minus 2. Okay, now notice this is the same as section B, you guys, except synthetic division is way faster, you guys. So you can only do this when you're dividing by a binomial. If you divide by a trinomial, you got to do long division, you guys. Or if this was like a 3x minus 2, you got to do something else. I would do long division if that was not an x minus 2 or an x plus 5. It has to be a 1x to do for synthetic division to be your advantage, I think anyways. Okay, so all right, so let's go ahead and do factor this guy. Factor this function 3x cubed minus 4x squared minus 28x minus 16, given that x plus 2 is a factor. Well, if x plus 2 is a factor, then my box number is going to be negative 2, and when I synthetically divide it into that, and if it's a factor, I should get a remainder of 0 because it's a factor. Okay, so if you don't get a remainder of 0, then you made a mistake. Okay, so here we go. I'm going to slide it down, times the box number, add. Okay, times the box number, add, times the box number, there's my remainder of 0. Okay, so since this is 3x cubed, this is 1 degree less than 3x squared minus 10x minus 8. So now I'm going to factor that guy right there. Okay, now factor by grouping. I like to do this, so I multiply 3 times negative 8 is negative 24. Negative 24 adds to negative is also negative 12 times 2, and those are the pairs that add to this negative 10. All right, now look for my factoring by grouping lesson that'll explain what I'm doing right here. I'm not a guessing and checking guy, you guys. I lose patience with it. I goof up too much. All right, so now I'm going to GCF out here. A 3x out of those two guys and GCF out a 2 out of those two guys. Okay, so here we go. And then when I do that, I'm left with when I pull a 3x out, I'm left with x minus 4. When I pull a 2 out, I'm left with x minus 4. So they both have a common x minus 4s. Don't forget the original factor up here was x plus 2, this original factor. So my final answer is these two guys and the original factor right there. Okay? All right, so you're going to see find the other zeros given that negative 2 is a 0. Okay, now this is different. When negative 2 is a 0, that's your box number. Okay, when it says x plus 2 is a factor, you do the opposite. But when they give you the 0, that's your box number. It's not the opposite. So if this is a 0, I should get a 0 when I synthetically divide negative 2 into this guy. So here I go. I'm going to synthetically divide. Okay, all right, so there I go. There's my 0. All right, now the other zeros are in this. This is a cubic, so this is a quadratic. X squared plus 6x minus 7. So now I'm going to factor x squared plus 6x minus 7. Factors of negative 7 that add to 6 are positive 7 times negative 1. So my other zeros are negative 7 and 1. All right. Okay, so this is example 6 that's found in my textbook on page 365. Okay, the profit in millions of dollars for a shoe manufacturer can be modeled by P equals negative 21x cubed plus 46x, where x is the number of shoes produced in millions. Okay, the company now produces 1 million shoes and makes a profit of $25 million. Boy, wouldn't that be nice. But would like to cut back on production. So what lesser numbers of shoes could the company produce and still make the same profit? Okay, all right, so this is a big fatty, you guys, and it took me a while to unravel this. Okay, so now this 25 came from this 25 million right here. Okay, so we're going to substitute in 25 for P. Okay, so I get that, and then I subtract 25, or I'm sorry, I add 21x cubed to both sides and subtract 46x because I want to make it equal to 0. And since my biggest degree is negative, then I put everything on that side of the equation. Okay, write it in standard form. All right, now what happens is we know the 1 million shoes where x is the number of shoes produced in millions. So we know one solution is x equals 1, okay, 1 million, but since that's 25, then it's 25 million. I'd rather just deal with the 25 instead of the 25 with the 6 zeros on it. Okay, so we're going to go ahead, and since we know x equals 1 is one of the solutions, I'm going to synthetically divide, you guys, that 1 in there to get this quadratic equation, because this was a cubic equation right here. So here's a quadratic equation here, you guys. All right, now I'm saving a lot of time right here. So I'm going to use the quadratic formula to solve this quadratic equation right here. And the quadratic formula, you guys, is and you do the get the decimal. It's a simplified radical answer, but since we're talking about money, I want the decimal answer. So x is about 0.7. Okay, now remember, we're going to move that decimal over 6 places because it's in terms of millions. So the company will still make the same profit, you guys, of 25 million bucks if they produced about 700,000 shoes instead of 1 million shoes. Okay, so that's big bucks right there where they can be saving some money on that. All right, if you're in my Algebra 2 class, I'd be assigning you guys that homework assignment. And thanks for hanging in there, you guys.